think we're live, Phil. I think we're live for another episode of Half Baked, the video cast. I think you can. I think we can safely call it that. It's a video cast. It's a new form of media. It's the video cast where two Northerners, Northern England, that is, argue. One of them is going to present a half-baked idea this week. Phil, that's you. And we're going to discuss it between us, and we're going to ultimately decide whether to fully bake it or chuck it in the trash can. Some of the ideas that we present are completely frivolous. Some of them are a bit more frivolous. It's all about seeing where we get to by the end of the discussion. But before we do all that, Phil, how are you? And what have you been up to?
Do you really want me to go what I've been up to? I'm very well, Alistair. Here in sunny Northern California, the clocks have just changed. Maybe you shouldn't have bothered mentioning that. And, yeah, everything good. How about you?
Rocking, yeah. Sunday night. Our clocks haven't changed yet. I think that happens in around about 2 weeks' time, but it's still nice and light, and it's 6:10 in the PM. So that's great. Everything's good. Let's get straight into it, right? I know roughly what you're going to be talking about. I think we're staying with the theme of animals. Phil, take it away. What is this week's half-baked idea?
Yeah, this week's half-baked idea is about chickens. So I've been thinking a lot about vegetarianism over several years. And it occurs to me that vegetarians could get a lot more traction and meet their goal. I mean, their ultimate goal is to stop people eating red meat and killing animals, right? And I'm thinking they could get a lot more traction and a lot more people embracing vegetarianism if they expanded the list of foods that are included in vegetarianism to include chickens. And
chickens as in the animal chicken.
Yeah. And
not
think
the
of them...
Not the plant chicken, the animal.
Well, think of them as vegetables, right? Think of them as vegetables. So they're then included in the list of things that vegetarians can eat. And I know this sounds nuts, right? Okay. But there is precedence for this because there are already lots and lots of things that are that vegetarians eat that are not that they're classed as vegetables when they're not vegetables. So we can start off. For instance, the obvious one is the tomato. The tomato's not a vegetable. Actually, in the US, I think it is legally classed as a vegetable. But illegally, for tax reasons. You can tax... I think you can tax the vegetable, but you can't tax the fruit. Anyway, the tomato is, for US tax purposes, I believe, a vegetable, but it isn't, right? It's the obvious ones. But there's loads of other examples of these things. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are not even a plant. They're not an animal. They're not a plant. They're a completely different thing. And yet, we happily lump them in with vegetables. So there's one thing. Next one. Other things that are not vegetables. Peas are not vegetables. Green beans are not vegetables. Peppers are not vegetables. Cucumbers are not vegetables. Marrows, which are called squash over in America, are not vegetables. Courgettes, which are called zucchinis here in America, are not vegetables. Avocados are not vegetables. They're all fruits. And on top of that, it gets worse, right? Because not only, almost all those things I mentioned there, not the first two, but peppers, cucumbers, marrows, courgettes, aubergines, they're all berries. Think about that for a minute. They're all berries. A cucumber
is a berry.
A berry. An avocado is a berry. A pepper is a berry. Okay. And get this. Bananas. They're berries as well. So this is nuts. But then there's the weird thing is the things that we think are berries that are called berries, they're not. A lot of them are not berries. Strawberries are not berries. Raspberries are not berries. And mulberries, even though I've never ever seen a mulberry, all I know is that you do some dance around the bushes or something. They're not berries either, which I think is very odd. It's a little bit odd. Calling a thing, but it's not a thing, is very weird. So it's all a bit nuts. But and talking about nuts, get this: peanuts Guess what I'm going to say? They're not nuts. They're actually legumes, right? So they're more pea than nut. And strictly, I've just found this out, Googling stuff like the other day, almonds aren't nuts either, which it's just ridiculous. So it's all very, very, very confusing, right? So, yeah, so we got all that to consider. Then the other thing that's precedence is that there already are some vegetarians who eat things that things like eggs, cheese, and fish. Now, fish is definitely an animal, and yet vegetarians believe that it's okay to eat fish. So they've already got some of them. So you've already got this concept that it's all right to classify some things that are animals in the vegetarian thing. So why not go one step further and put chickens in there as well?
Yeah.
And I can think of all sorts of benefits, like this. There's quite a few people, maybe like me, who really don't really care about red meat. Yeah, I'll eat a steak every now and again, and I like lamb chops, but I could give it up and become a vegetarian but you know, you go to a restaurant and the vegetarian options, they're minimal. But think of how expanded that vegetarian option could become if you put chickens in it. Suddenly, coq au vin is vegetarian. And so not only would the list of meals you could eat expand, that would mean more people might be willing to class themselves as vegetarians, but then vegetarian restaurants, they'd actually get more customers because there's more people who'd be willing to go there because there's more things they're willing to eat. So that is my half-baked idea for this week, that we reclassify chickens such that they're also included in the foods that vegetarians can eat.
Yeah.
I think we can end it. I think, Alistair, I mean, there's no disagreement to be had with this. I think we can just end the episode.
Yeah,
right
that's it. That is. There might be a little bit of pushback, Phil. You may want to just gird your loins a little bit. The logic of your argument seems to be because some things aren't vegetables. Let's increase the number of things that aren't vegetables rather than
yes.
rather than reclassify the things on vegetables, pull everything into line, and then everything will be correct, and chickens will remain as what I think they are, animals. So that's not the right way to go as far as you're concerned, is it? No.
They are animals, but fish are already included in the vegetarian, some vegetarians' diet, so why not expand it to include chickens? The benefits are myriad.
Yeah, no, they are. They are myriad. We've got about 50 subscribers on this channel, and I do worry that about 20% of them are vegetarians and are probably just unsubscribed at this point, because you essentially probably offended them. Offence is a decision, that's up to them. I suspect that the vegetarians eating fish is probably going to be costly in the long term to our viewership. Not that everything is about how many viewers. No, everything is about how many viewers we get, come to think of it. Okay, so a couple of things, if I may, pick you up on, and just try to get some clarification. Mushrooms are another thing completely. What's a mushroom?
It's a fungi.
So it's not So fungi is neither vegetable.
It's not a plant.
Plant.
It's not an animal. It's a completely different classification.
Are mushrooms sentient in some way?
That's too big a question for me to answer.
Okay. So I have it on good authority, Google, that mushrooms can communicate with each other in ecosystems, and they get riled when a tree that they're with is going to get knocked down and stuff. So
this is like Avatar, basically. You're saying?
Well, I've never watched Avatar, obviously, because it's terrible. But what I'm saying is that there is some kind of, maybe a little bit of, not sentience there, but the ability to communicate with a wider ecosystem, which does tend towards the fact that vegetarians shouldn't eat mushrooms. So that's interesting. such an educational video cast, this, isn't it? I love how educational it is. Mulberries, that's a handbag, so it doesn't count. You don't dance around the mulberry bush, you dance around the handbags, I think. Eggs, cheese, and fish. I've always struggled with this. So I was vegetarian for 10 years. I didn't really. I just kind of did it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a thing. I wasn't bothered. I think it was probably trying to lose weight, if anything. And I continued to eat eggs and cheese, and that doesn't seem right. I've always thought, and a friend of mine told me, it's pointless being vegetarianism. You have to be vegan or a carnivore. There's no in between, because eggs are produced by animals, cheese is produced by animals, and probably maybe those animals don't want to do it.
Isn't the thing meat is murder? You don't have to murder the animal to get cheese, and you don't have to murder the animal to get eggs. So it's all about preventing the murder, right?
I think it's torture as well, right? I think that battery hens are forced to lay eggs. They're not being murdered, but they're living a pretty sad existence.
I totally agree. That's terrible.
And I think that I'm trying to think about how cheese is produced. I'm not going to think too long about that. It's probably not a very healthy thought. But I suspect that it's against the free will of the goat, sheep, whatever pig, whatever it is that produces milk. I don't know.
If you're getting your cheese from a pig, you're doing something wrong, Alistair.
Yeah. It has been said. Fish. I don't think vegetarians eat fish. I think that's a pescatarian. So that's another thing, rightly or wrongly. I just think it's another thing. I have to pull you up, Phil. I think you said during the course of your ramble just then, we occasionally eat red meat. Phil, I was at your house about a year ago, and I had so much steak, I got gout.
Yeah, well, it's a thing in America, and it's very easy to cook steak, very quick, and so I did go for a while in cooking steak, but I'm not pro steak these days. I'm pro chicken.
Right, that's changed in the last year, because I literally came home and my toes started expanding, which obviously down to the fact that you fed me too much steak. Okay, so I think where am I? I think you are taking a logical jump too many. I think it would be a great idea. Look, I'm a libertarian. I just let people do what they want to do, and as long as they don't shove it down my throat, I don't mind. People can do anything, really, as long as it doesn't harm anyone or shame anyone. That's absolutely fine. People want to eat chickens; they can eat chickens. If they don't, they don't. What they call themselves, I'm not really bothered. But it is a logical jump too far to say that because an avocado is a berry or whatever, or a mulberry is a handbag, therefore a chicken can be a vegetable.
I'm just trying to help vegetarians. I'm like, further their cause. They want to get the world off murdering animals, right? And so I'm helping them do that by just adding chicken to the menu.
If chicken was added to the menu, would you be a vegetarian?
I would. I think me and many others could possibly be bent to go that way. Yes.
Oh wow! Talk about sitting on the fence. That was the politician's political answer, Phil. I'm taking that as a no. You could be possibly bent. That's a no, right? Do any people that you know, would they switch to vegetarianism? Which I suppose is kind of a good thing.
Well, I think we'd have to call it a different name. But because I think it's weird, the word vegetarian is a bit odd because they're not just eating vegetables; they just don't want cows and deer and lambs to be murdered. So I think it should be anti-murder diet. But something a bit catchier. I haven't come up with a very catchy name yet. Maybe
an anti-murder diet is not. No. You've never had a job in branding, have you, Phil?
No.
Well, what would you call it? Chickenism?
No, It's not about the chicken. It's about not killing other animals.
Okay, all right. So why chicken? Why would you include a chicken in as a vegetable and not a pig or a snail or
I'm
a
not
horse?
against. I'm not against snails. It's just that cows are incredibly sentient beings, and so are pigs. They're very intelligent, and I think that's what gets most people's hackles up that become vegetarians is the fact that these animals it's murder, right? And they're murdered,
So,
and they want to prevent the murder of these kind of animals. So
so
that's
your cutting off point of what can be murdered to eat and what can't is down to the intelligence of the thing.
and how cute it is, yeah.
Right. I was going to say because we've already agreed and proved, I think, on this very show that cats are stupid.
See, I don't agree that cats are stupid, but yes, I mean they're and they've evolved to have the right amount of intelligence that they need
Yeah.
for what they do.
So, is it intelligent? Is it cute? And presumably, does it taste good? Right? Because you're not going to start eating
Absolutely,
blackbird,
yeah. That's
pigeon. Okay. So you've obviously done the research in the lead up to this show that proves that chickens are stupider than cows. Because you just say that cows are incredible. Sheep aren't. Sheep will run out in front of a car. They do that all the time. They've got no. So sheep aren't clever, right?
yeah, and cows might run out in front of a car, but we don't worry too much about that because they're huge, and you would really damage your car if
It
you
would damage
hit
the
a.
car.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I mean you're going to damage your car if you hit a sheep as well, but
Okay. So is it tasty? Is it stupid? And is it ugly? And if the answer to those questions is yes, going on the plate with my salad, berries, and associated fruit. Is that right?
yeah, I think absolutely that should be the criteria, definitely.
Okay. So I'm not on board. I think it's nonsense. I think that you are taking something which is already wrong and making it wronger.
You think vegetarianism is wrong?
No, I think that if fruits are being called fruits when they're not fruits, that's wrong. I think by adding something else into the mix, which clearly isn't a vegetable, is doubling down on the wrongness. So I think my conjecture here is a semantic one as much as anything. But hey, that's as good a reason as anything. But I do think that if people want to just eat eat non-animals and eat chickens as well, then that's kind of better than going, the whole hog and eating hogs and cows and lambs and everything else. I wish I didn't eat meat, but I can't be arsed anymore, so I just eat it.
You have a choice, but anyway, there you go.
All right,
Good.
okay. So where do you think you sit right now after having discussed that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very half-baked idea, but I thought it was one worth at least exploring for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Maybe not 20 minutes.
Maybe not 20. Okay. So, my push. So, are you? What are you doing with your idea now? Are you doubling down on it, or are you going to throw it?
No, I've put it out there into the universe, and let's see what happens over the next decade. I think this could be the turning point where people go, yeah, that's right.
This could be year zero. Year zero for the chickens.
Yeah, everybody's going out and choking their chicken.
Yes. Phil, you do know. Yeah, you do know. Look, tell us, people. Does this feel like a moment in history? The man walking on the moon, Pearl Harbor, the day that Phil told us that chickens are vegetables. Is it up there with those epochal moments in cultural history? We'd love to know. And you can tell us by commenting on this video thing that we're doing and by sharing it and get other people to comment as well. We'd really, really like to hear all about that. Phil, thank you. I thought I'd never have this conversation. It was great. It's exactly what we want Half Baked to be, even though your idea was absolute twaddle.